You know, there's a picture going around on with the ministers, and I don't know if I've seen it on Facebook, but I've gotten several texts of this picture of a sanctuary that is empty, but there's pictures of all the community members on each of the chairs. And I just love that, because that's what I'm doing right now, is imagining that you are with us. I see Sharon and Judy and Kathy and Kim and Zoe and Roger and Aaron, and that's all I'm going to list for now, because there's quite a few of you on here, but we are so grateful that you're with us this morning on this Palm Sunday. And we understand if you need to leave us live right after this talk is over, and we invite you to go to the donate button on our website. If you so choose, we will have a time of donation later on, a sacred time of that, but if you choose to do that now, that would be amazing too. So we thank you. We thank you for supporting this ministry. So last Tuesday, I went for a run, and it was the first time that I ran in a month, because I had the flu, which turned into a sinus infection, and I just didn't have the energy. And so I went for a run on Tuesday, and I went 1.92 miles before I had to stop. I was out of breath. It was really, really hard. And I came to realize that, you know, this is like what's going on with us now. That this is really, really hard. This is hard. We need to build up our stamina. We need to build ourselves up in order to be able to accept this new normal, live in this new normal, be productive in this new normal. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes practice. While I was running, there were many pockets of these little tiny bugs just swarming. And I'd have to keep shooing them away, and there would just be these pockets of bugs. And I kept thinking, you know, that's like our thoughts. Those bugs, they're pesty. They're annoying. Those thoughts that say, I want to be scared about this. I want to be and have anxiety over this, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm tired. And, you know, all those emotions are okay, and we need to let them be okay. But, you know, they feed on each other. And so we want to be cautious of that. This pandemic time is there's a lot of scattered thoughts going around. There's a lot of that. We don't have any experience of this. This is all new. This is new to all of us. So we need to just breathe and pause. This is new territory, and it's stressful. And we need to be gentle with ourselves. These circumstances, this situation that our planet is in, is inviting us to move into a new way of being, both in our physical worlds and in our own consciousness. We may not like that invitation. We might want to throw that invitation away. It's okay. Many of us are in that place. We are grieving life as we knew it. We're grieving. Today is Palm Sunday. And on Palm Sunday in the Gospels, all four Gospels have a similar account of Palm Sunday. Jesus, prior to this time, was living on the outskirts of Jerusalem and traveling mostly by foot with his disciples, sharing stories, doing healings. But at this particular time, he knew that it was time to go to Jerusalem. He was going to Jerusalem to be there for Passover. He's moving right into the thick of things, just as we are moving right into the thick of things. He demonstrated bravery, courage, and a way to take charge. From the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verse 29 to 37, I just want to read for you this short passage about Palm Sunday. When he had come near Bethphage and Bethany, at the place called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of the disciples, saying, "Go into the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find tied there a colt that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you untying it?' just say this, 'The Lord needs it.'" So those who were sent departed and found it as he had told them. As they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, "What are you untying the colt? Why are you untying the colt?" They said, "The Lord needs it." Then they brought it to Jesus, and after throwing their cloaks on the colt, they set Jesus on it. As he rode along, people kept spreading their cloaks on the road. And as he was now approaching the path down from the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to praise God joyfully with a loud voice for all the deeds of power they had seen. Now, if you talk to Bible scholars or read any of their works, they think that because this story is in all four Gospels, that it means there's some likelihood of some historical accuracy to it. It doesn't matter. We say in Unity, it doesn't matter whether you believe the story historically or not, because we love to look at the richness of the story behind the story, of the inner meaning, of the metaphysical meaning of the story. And Palm Sunday is rich with symbolism. So metaphysically, Jesus always represents our own I am, our own Christ nature, our spiritual nature, that part of ourselves that knows what it knows, that part of ourselves that has all the power. All the power. And the fact that Jesus is heading into Jerusalem, Jerusalem metaphysically means a place of peace. He's riding into a place of peace, probably knowing that there's going to be some animosity there, some things going to unfold. They probably heard rumors of this. And he decides to ride into Jerusalem, not on foot like he had done his last 3 years of ministry, but on a donkey, an unbroken donkey. Now, that donkey, that colt, that new colt, represents our egos. In this time of pandemic in our globe, this is new territory for us. It's like riding a new colt. It's like riding a new donkey. There's lots of egoic thoughts coming up and springing up from this. But Jesus shows us in this story, metaphysically, how we can take our I am self and take dominion over those thoughts. Sit on that donkey and ride into peace. We will never have peace without taking dominion of those thoughts of fear and anxiety and overwhelm or anger, whatever those thoughts are, whatever those feelings are. We will never find peace as long as they are allowed to continue unridden, untamed. We're continuing this is the last week of talking about the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And this last chapter in the book is called Heaven on Earth. Seems like a pretty strange title for this time, Heaven on Earth. He says this on page 127. 2,000 years ago, Jesus told us about the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of love, but hardly anyone was ready to hear this. They said, "What are you talking about? My heart is empty. I don't feel the love that you are talking about. I don't feel the peace that you have." So, are we ready now? Are we ready for this message now? Can we feel the love? Can we feel the peace in the midst of the crisis, in spite of everything going on? It's new for all of us, so let it be okay if you're not. Be gentle with yourself. Have patience with yourself. Riding a donkey isn't as easy as you might think. It can be really challenging. 3 years ago, I stood before you all and talked about riding a donkey and told you about a breast cancer diagnosis that I had just received. Somehow today, 3 years later, it seems even more important to ride that donkey, to take dominion. In wikihow.com, they talk about how you can ride a donkey. It's very similar to taming the ego. They say donkeys are less responsive to training. They don't like change. Neither do our egos. They don't like change. Donkeys have great endurance. They're used to traversing through hiking trails. Egos, too, have great endurance. They don't want to give up. Donkeys are excellent herders of sheep and goat. Don't our egos like to herd everyone else who's feeling the same, who's on that same level of talking about anger and fear? Donkeys like familiarity. They get their reputation for being stubborn because they don't react well to unfamiliar situations. Sounds a bit like the ego to me. We like things to stay the same. We don't like change. We get stuck in our patterns. Donkeys need someone familiar with their temperaments and their abilities. We need self-awareness. We need to stay observant. Honest self-observation is very important. What are we feeling? Where are we at? We need to be conscious and awake. Patience is a real virtue when it comes to riding donkeys. They don't like to go in a straight line. They want to go off course. Same with our egos. We need to be gentle with ourselves when we're using force or sitting on that donkey. Using force is more of a muscle trait, an ego trait. Instead, we want to be gentle. Be gentle with yourself. I watched a couple of YouTube videos yesterday about how to sit on a donkey. The first one was really short because the guy just tried to get on the donkey that was going by, who had no saddle, no blanket, nothing, and he just got on it, and of course the donkey just bucked him off. I said bucked, B-U-C-K. I didn't want any misinterpretation there. The other video I watched was someone who was being very patient with the donkey and spent weeks getting to a point of actually sitting in the saddle and getting the donkey to move forward. Because when they sat in the saddle, the donkey did not want to move forward. It wanted to just stand there. So we need to be gentle with ourselves. This is new territory. As we sit on those ego thoughts, be gentle. Donkeys are also prone to gaining weight. They need continuous exercise, meaning we need to continuously practice taking dominion of those thoughts. We have this ability within us in unity. It's called the power of power. We take dominion of the thoughts that are in our consciousness. We close, it's like stand guard at the portal of your mind. I can't remember who said that. Somebody said that. Stand guard at the portal of your mind. Be careful of what you let in. So I want to ask you right now, how is your donkey ride now? How's that donkey riding? Is it running into everything? Is it going off course? Is it trying to B-U-C-K you off, buck you off? Or is it lying down and wanting to take a nap? I invite you to share that in the chat box. If you're watching us live on Facebook, just share with us and let everybody see how your donkey is riding for you. want to take charge. We want to use that power of power. Purple is the color of royalty. Jesus going into Jerusalem, people were saying he was the king of peace. They were hoping he'd be the king of the Jews to overcome the Romans. That wasn't the kind of kingdom he had in mind. Purple is also a color of grief. Years ago, centuries ago, after they would get done wearing black for a year, then they would switch to purple. We're grieving. Life as we knew it is changed, probably forever. We're grieving. So we want to be gentle with ourselves. It's one moment at a time, one day at a time. Can you imagine taking charge? Can you imagine taking charge of that donkey? Don Miguel Ruiz says this: use your imagination and a tremendous thing will happen. Imagine that you have the ability to see the world with different eyes, wherever you choose. Each time you open your eyes, you see the world around you in a different way. How are you seeing the world now? Are you seeing the love that's there? Are you seeing the goodness in people who are helping each other? What are you looking at? You might want to put that in the chat box on Facebook as well. What are you seeing? This year, our theme is Seeing Through a Spiritual Lens, 2020 Vision. And I love how this final chapter of the Four Agreements talks about that. Seeing with different eyes, seeing with an expanded vision, expanded awareness, expanded perception. So important not to judge ourselves, not to judge each other. And this is not easy. It's really not easy. Just as my run, and running out of breath as I was running because I needed to rebuild my stamina. We need to practice this. There's an article that somebody sent me on Facebook, and I've seen it in Facebook too, so maybe you've read it. It's an article from the Chronicle of Higher Education called Why Should You Ignore All That Coronavirus-Inspired Productivity Pressure by Aisha Ahmad. She's an assistant professor of political science at the University of Toronto. And she talks about different stages of how first we have to make sure we're safe, make sure we have security. And then we can allow ourselves to change our mindset, allow ourselves to see things differently. And then finally, we can get into a new normal and be productive again. So if we're not feeling productive, or we're feeling overwhelmed, or we're feeling like we just need to take a nap, would that be okay for you? She says in the article, abandon the performative and embrace the authentic. Our essential mental shifts require humility and patience. Focus on the real internal change. That's the transformation that we talk about here, that our mission is all about, inspiring personal transformation. Waking up to our reactivity so that we can choose a different response. Breaking out of those patterns, sitting on the donkey and not letting the parasites swarm and invade our consciousness. We want to acknowledge them, but don't let them in the front door. Tuesday, when I went for a run and I told you all those bugs were swarming, Wednesday morning, I went out my front door, and on the front stoop in front of the door are thousands, well, maybe not thousands, maybe hundreds of dead little bugs. I thought, they didn't get through my door. The door, the house, metaphysically represents our consciousness. we stand guard at that portal. We don't let them through the door. They find a way to get in. It's going to happen. We're human. But don't let the swarm in. In the Four Agreements, Don Miguel says, maybe we cannot escape from the destiny of the human, but we have a choice to suffer our destiny or to enjoy our destiny, to suffer or to love and be happy, to live in hell or to live in heaven. My choice is to live in heaven. What is yours? In spite of these current circumstances we find ourselves in, we can choose to live in heaven, live in love. When we can get through this, we will get through this, then we can dance and laugh and hug and be together again. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I want to take you now into a time of meditation. And I invite you to keep this time sacred. You might be tempted to go get a cup of coffee or turn us off right now, but keep this sacred. It's so important for our planet to raise the consciousness level of all of us. And so I'm going to invite you to stay focused on the candle as I read some excerpts of this last chapter in the Four Agreements. I want you to see yourself living a new life, a new dream, a life where you don't need to justify your existence, and you are free to be who you really are. Imagine that you have permission to be happy and to really enjoy your life. Imagine living your life without the fear of being judged by others. You no longer rule your behavior according to what others may think about you. You are no longer responsible for anyone's opinion. You have no need to control anyone, and no one controls you either. Imagine living your life without judging others. You can easily forgive and let go of any judgments that you have. You don't have the need to be right, and you don't need to make anyone else wrong. Imagine living without the fear of loving and not being loved. You are no longer afraid to be rejected, and you don't have the need to be accepted. You can say, I love you, with no shame or justification. You can walk in the world with your heart completely open. Imagine living your life without being afraid to take a risk and to explore life. You are not afraid to lose anything. You are not afraid to be alive in the world, and you are not afraid to die. Imagine that you love yourself just the way you are. You love your body just the way it is. And you love your emotions just the way they are. You know that you are perfect just as you are. If you can imagine this, you can feel what it means to live in a state of bliss, and you will love it. And we'll take those thoughts into the silence for just a moment.